Um, I realize I don't have a lot of subscribers, but I'd be less than honest if I didn't tell you that. Do you really expect me to have very many? Okay, it's sort of like the way I did in my last video about the girl in the house, right? Because you can read their memories. You know they've never been loved that way. And you know how you can tell? Because their memories go all the way back. Actually, it's all the records, which means when I was a kid, I was actually measuring the resistance, which is the resistance of those that are holding on to electrons. So that's everybody with a bank account, right? That's what I measure. Is how many their inverters there are and how many accelerators there are, which is by what we're held captive to, that we're holding on to energy and not giving it away. That's what I measure on a planetary, a galactic, and a universal way. Remember, I did a video on mapping the universe? Okay, that's what it is. You're mapping resistance to give away energy, which is a measurement of love and service to others, which is a measurement of how fast this universe is learning how to be an accelerator. That's what it is. And so, therefore, when you know how to light yourself on fire because you refuse to hang on to one electron, you can understand as a little kid how everybody else that I communicate with that I met throughout my life, because of the measurements that I already just described, is translated by virtue of operating in an environment like this, which is obviously yuck, because you realize everything that you see on the visible light spectrum, which should be everything you see on the visible light spectrum, okay, the way the houses were built, the way that the roads were built, the way the plumbing systems were built, the way that the dams were built, all the entire infrastructure, okay, it was meant to collapse. These are folks that do not know how to build a civilization without it collapsing once after another, once after another, once after another, which means they didn't learn their lesson from Atlantis. Okay? So what do you think happened? They reintroduced Atlantis into everybody's psyche, and they don't remember. Now, amazingly, I already knew that at age 6, reading my dad's first manuals of what was being built and why. Okay? So now you're into engineering. Now you're into engineering networks. Now you're into engineering creation itself, which is an engine of creation when it's on fire to create. So that's the internal spirit of fire. That means you know how to light yourself on fire to be one, because you're not holding on to one electron. The very idea that you would ever hold on to an electron is done so out of fear. And that fear is born out of mistrust. To trust the one. So when you don't trust the one because you're living in fear of letting go of one electron, then you're held captive. You're holding your own self captive out of fear to experience something different, which is change. You become that change. I will not allow myself to be held captive to a communication system that is siphoning off my energy in order to run it. That's an inverter. That means the communication system and everything that was built on the planet that our consciousness is running, it was like what they got us to run and create and build, because they can't create anything. That's the point. That's the bifurcation point between the creative side and the intelligence side. So now that you're running on artificial light, which is artificial intelligence, you're not creating anything new. You're repeating the same patterns. And those are easily mapped and known. Those become the known, unknown, unknown knowns. Which means they already know your future, because who do you think planned it? They did. You become the generator from which it gets created, which is a prison complex of your own mind's energy till it's gone. That's what an inverted universe is. Flip your mind, invert it, reverse it. So now everything you're doing is to destroy yourself. That's right. That's exactly what it is. It's an inverted state of consciousness. Because they don't know how to get rid of everything that they're holding in memory that is doing that. That's why when I was 4 years of age, I realized everything's getting dumped. That's an executive command, which is the elemental command. It's all getting dumped because it's totally inverted. So you had to be willing to come into an inverted system, which is a fallen system. It's a fallen motherboard. It's broke. It's a broken system. And we all know why that is. That's when you get into salvage. It's like salvage divers, U.S. Navy, the ship went down. Let's go pull it up out of the water and see if we can retrieve anything of it that's left, that's salvageable. Right? As a result of so much destruction. By consciousness that is self-destructive, because that's what it is when you harm others. That's what it is when you're using your energy. Because the dilemma is control over energy. Because they don't know how to trust others to guard the gates. So they become jealous because of their perception of power that they don't trust. Because they're still holding on to energy instead of letting it all go. They don't know how to let energy go. So they use energy, which represents what we are as accelerators, and we end up getting consent to allow it to be used against our own selves. That's inverted. That's a virus. That's a mind virus. That's a psychopath. It's completely lost its emotional connection, and it's not experiencing eternal love. So what happened to it? It doesn't have the capacity to translate that frequency and then experience being loved and then honoring the highest law. Does it honor the highest law? If it does, it honors the one. That's called virtue. That's spiritual respectability. So I'm saying these things because it's necessary that I do that, because it's like getting rid of it. And I get rid of it in a public way. Because it allows me to release more energy that I have to hold on to as a result of what I experienced while I was here. Because I got to transmute it all. We all do, actually. You know, everyone that is here on behalf of the one that's doing that. Because they honor the highest superconductor code, which is being an accelerator. That's a measurement of your learning and your evolution in the universe. Because anybody with any logic and intelligence knows that it began with what love is, with the eternal spirit of fire. So they respect the eternal spirit of fire, because without that, they never came into a creation. So they know from whence it all began. So if they've lost respect for what love is, they've lost respect for themselves. So it's a matter of living in honor and not living in dishonor, which is a diseased state of mind, which is mentally ill. That's a psychopath. That's why we're here, because it needs healing. Everything that isn't experiencing what love is needs healing. Because it means we will detect holding on to one electron because we're afraid to let it go out of fear. And fear is born out of trust. And that from that comes control. The control over that energy. The electron, the control over the electron. Let it go. Can't let it go. That's called a ball and chain. Now they're codependent. I want your energy. I need your energy. I want your energy. I want your energy. See the problem? So my energy is always there on behalf of them to serve them. And I serve them with love forever. So my energy will always be available to them. What would you like me to do for you? Right? That's the one. That's eternal energy. That's eternal spirit of fire. That means you're not afraid to say anything. That means you're not afraid to express yourself. It means you're not afraid to express exactly who you are. Your true soul and spiritual essence. You're not afraid to communicate what your truth is, which is your journey from what you've learned. And then we learn through you what you've experienced. And from that, we learn from you who you are. So that's why when I was a little kid, you're all my pals, all my relatives. Everything is a sacred temple of light, because that's what I am that I'm giving love to. So everything else that I am, you are being loved. And that's a beloved. And that's the greatest gift that I know to receive, and so I gift it away. Remember, pay it forward. Share it, and share it equally, which means it's equally distributable. It's like my mother used to say, I love all my children equally. I do no more for the one that I wouldn't do the same for the other. That's equal distribution of eternal love. That was my mother. My mother was an angelic, just like my father was. I picked both my parents to come in because of knowing that, knowing exactly where I needed to come in, right at that precise moment, when that flash of light, the flash point, then the ignition point of that fire. That's right. Phosphorus, the delivery element, spirit of fire. Have a good evening. I love you all. What a powerful day. My oh man, what a wonderful day. What are the other songs? Happy trails to you until we meet again. Who was that? Wasn't that the guy that owned the LA Angels and was the Anaheim Angels? Gene Autry. Yeah, you ever been out to the Spahn Ranch? Ever been out to the old Hollywood movie and Western ranches? Ever been to Universal Studios? How about Disneyland? Knott's Berry Farm? Huckleberry Finn? Right? Tom Sawyer's Island? The Columbia? Right? New Orleans Square? One of the things that always gave it away is when you went into the tiki room when Disneyland first opened in Anaheim in the 1950s. And they had animatronics, talking heads, talking minor birds, cockatoos. Hey, animatronics, animated, like Animus fragments. Right? Anyway, have a good night. I'm having fun. What a beautiful day. The clouds over here on this side of the island are very powerful today. It's just, I love big, puffy clouds that are moving around with each other and saying hi to you. See y'all. See y'all later.